Welcome, and welcome back, everybody, to the OK Grognard Show. Today is Monday, November 8th, 2021. It's 10 a.m. Central in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Today we're going to take a look at the Dungeon Masters Guide, first edition, section on artifacts. Now I'm going to preface this by saying used some artifacts of my own making in my own campaigns. Never used one straight out of the book except one time, and was familiar with them, read them back in the day, read about, all the sections and everything, and knew about the adventure, the rod of 7 parts, and all sorts of other interesting times that other people would use them. They'd talk about how great it was to throw an artifact in as the focus of a campaign. It was a lot of fun. It was very interesting, but I didn't want to use the ones out of the book. I thought they came with enough significant setting material tied to them that they wouldn't be as impressive if somebody already knew about them and then, oh, it's one of those. Here it is. I found this particular thing that everybody has always talked about in other games, and I always hoped I would run across one, as if there were a multitude of them, when in fact artifacts are meant, in my mind at least, maybe other people have other ideas, but to be singular items like the One Ring from Lord of the Rings, and they should have significance to the individual that crafted them, specific significance, and they should be powerful, but more powerful for that individual, the one who crafted them, because why else craft it if you can't make it something that's truly your own and enhances what you already have? And then, on top of that, if someone else winds up using it, why should it work for them at all, let alone the way it works for you? So even if there are still some powers that can be utilized, there should be some drawbacks for someone who didn't craft it. Was it made for them? They should have that. So all of that said, we're going to take a look at the artifact section, and there's a lot to it. So it may be a two-parter or a three-parter. I don't know. If I get rambling, you never know what's going to happen. But I did want to take some time today to mention this thing up in the corner. Well, it didn't take long. Um, it's all the information for GaryCon, which is coming up next March, and it's the deadlines. So it's March 24th through 27th, Thursday through Sunday, and inevitably, for a lot of people, GaryCon becomes this whole week where they'll come on Monday or Tuesday and they'll stay through the following Monday. So hopefully we'll have a good number of gamers in town who want to take advantage of some time off and spend it here and make it a full week of gaming. It's always a good time. And Lake Geneva Games is here in town for people to visit. There are many other things. I do want to say, though, that Lake Geneva Games has never taken a table or a booth as a vendor at GaryCon. We're respectful of the idea that the vendors at GaryCon fill a very specific niche for these old school fans and collectors and aficionados that we don't fill. Even here in town, we don't carry a lot of used product. We sell the newer stuff, and selling older stuff is a very time intensive and something pursuit, and something you have to curate constantly. And So we don't intrude on that. We don't take a table over there. We're certainly happy when people stop by, if they're in town in Lake Geneva anyway, and they get off campus, as it were. If they come by Lake Geneva Games, that's wonderful. Of course, we have dice, which I guess all gamers can use, and some other things, dice towers, dice bags, um, various things like that that crossover, paints and stuff. But and board games, and I don't mean to suggest that anybody that goes to GaryCon is laser focused only on old school stuff, but that's what brings them to GaryCon. It's why I go to GaryCon. It's why many of us do. It's about the old school games, that those 4 days and more. So old school, right? So we don't want people to go out of their way or spend their money at Lake Geneva Games, um, and take something out of the pockets of the very wonderful vendors who uh, pick up a booth and at GaryCon and spend weeks, if not their entire year, preparing to enhance the show as a vendor, which they do with a lot of their crafts and a lot of their well-made items, and those that make old school adventures and materials that can be used with old school games are writing all the time to create those. So let that be known that always welcome to come by Lake Geneva Games. There's some extra game space there as if you need it when you got Gary Con open. But we're there. Pop on by. I will not be there those days because I will be at Gary Con. That is undoubtedly my plan. But this whole Gary Con stuff here is tells you all about it. Life and works of Gary Gygax. The venue, of course, Grand Geneva Resort and Spa. Deadlines to note: the first one coming up December 31st is when the physical show event submissions ends. They sometimes reopen it if they're shy on some events, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think there'll be as many people there this year for various reasons. There is a virtual GaryCon going on in tandem with it, so that will have people worldwide playing in it, and I think some people will want to play in those events, even if they're in the area, or if they could have come to GaryCon. They're in the area, but they could not come to GaryCon for whatever reasons. Um, I'm pretty sure there are mask policies, or maybe even vaccination policies in place. Make a check of that. A lot of the GaryCon faithful are older gamers, so there are some concerns about making sure that everybody's safe and also will be with us for many years to come. We're taking no chances. We're playing it smart. So there you go. Sarah's Sarah brings up in the chat that it looks like I'm doing the marble columns, like this one, or this one, or this one. That's me all over, right? I never know where to point. I'll have to ask his daughter Lexi and have her show me how it's done so I can properly point out all of the features of the GaryCon. The GaryCon, is it 14? Yeah, 14 features. December 31st is also the badge refund deadline. So if you signed on and haven't checked things out, or if your plans or schedule changes and you have to unload it, that's for the refund deadline. I don't know what their policies are regarding rolling one over. Um, don't don't ask me. I'm not that guy. Um, But if there was like a last minute problem, you might be able to claim some sort of hardship thing and ask to be allowed to roll it over to GaryCon 15. I don't know. Diamond ticket sales open February 5th, 2022. These are the availabilities for event tickets. They should call that registration rather than sales. I would assume that would make more sense because it's not badges, it's tickets. So those tickets that are available, or all of the tickets, those with diamond badges get first crack at all of the events. They pay the most. I guess that makes sense. Every year I say the same thing, which is DMs that do a lot of hours can sometimes find themselves shut out of events in their times when they're not DMing. It would be nice if anyone who DMs more than a certain number of hours gets to pick at least one ticket prior to other folks, regardless of what they paid. Um, the the events that these tickets are available for, that all the diamond, platinum, and gold and silver people are getting into, are ones being run by DMs. Without DMs, there's just a bunch of people sitting around reading their books, right? People love to play, and some people love to DM like me, but at the end of the day, you gotta have DMs. Sarah likes that idea. Sarah runs some games herself. I don't know if she's run any at GaryCon, but she definitely teaches games, not just with her family, but with her friends at the game store. Sometimes she'll be showing off a new game and teaching everybody that in the regular game groups there. And she knows it's extra work. It can be fun, no doubt about it, but it definitely requires a little extra effort when you're doing that as well. In any event, on through March, Ethereal ticket sales open March 5th, so just a few weeks before the convention. If you're doing the online, Ethereal is the second tier. Astral is the first tier, so there's a higher end. If you want to get in on early tickets for the virtual convention, then do it on pick up the Astral badge or just the Ethereal if you're fine. The virtual event submissions end March 21st. They let that run pretty close to when the show starts because being all electronic, they can add those in quite easily. They don't have to figure out what table they're going to be on, in what room, and is there something already there. And physical space, they have to cut that out a lot earlier, December 31st. Keep that date in mind. The 21st, 24th is exhibit setup. That's day one. You get in there early at 7 a.m. and set up your booth, and you're ready to go. Anyway, that's the whole of it. So we've spent a good deal of time on it already. Let's talk artifacts and understand these are not rando things. You gotta decide this is going to be something you put in there. So in the DMG, page 124, I believe, you've got yourself a table that is special. And it's special because, you know what? Let's shove me over in the corner a little bit further. There we go. It is special because it is populated with artifacts. I will mention at the bottom, it says these items bring no experience points. Gold piece value is here, as it is with all magic items, but there's also an experience line in those tables. This is strictly about gold piece value here. I'm not sure who would get one of these and try to sell it, but maybe you are commissioned to get one of them, and so knowing the value, knowing the risks, knowing helps you know what sort of fee you should be getting for liberating this from its current owner and passing it along to whoever is paying that high price. There are quite a few of them here, right? Let's see real quick. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30 plus, right? Acts of the Dwarvish Lords. We'll get into some of what these mean, but remember some of the things that they can do, the abilities, the powers that they hold, um, can be generated on random tables. You can, of course, choose them, and it is advisable if you're going to place this in your campaign, but perhaps you enjoy the fun of having something random uh, appear in your campaign and let the players figure out what they're going to do with it and enjoying the ride as a DM, which is okay too. Acts of the Dwarvish Lord, Baba Yaga's Hut, classic from Russian folklore. Codex of the Infinite Planes, Crown of Might, Crystal of the Ebon Flame. And you already see that some of these things on percentage dice are but a single 1 in 100 chance, while there are others, 15% Crown of Might, 2% Codex of the Infinite Planes, 1%, 1% for these first two. Cup and Talisman of Al Akbar. 23 and 24 is the Eye of Vecna, and then that's 2%, 1% for the Hand of Vecna, so more dangerous, more important. Heward's Mystical Organ. Horn of Change. Invulnerable Coat of Arnd. Iron Flask of Turney the Merciless. Jacinth of Inestimable Beauty. Joheidi's Mask. Joheidi's Mask. That, of course, clearly a slipped-in name pun, perhaps based on Joe, perhaps based on daughter Heidi. Curath's Quill, Mace of Cuthbert, Machine of Lum the Mad, Mighty Servant of Luke-O. All right, Luke, we were just talking about Gary Khan. Orb of the Dragon Kind, Orb of Might. And notice these percentages still. Keep an eye on those. Couple percent, 4, 5, 6% here. Quite a few more, to 15% for the Orb of Might. Queen Alyssa's, perhaps based on Elise. Marvelous Nightingale, at least in name. Recorder, O Ye Sind, young Cindy, Gygax, getting a name check there. Ring of Gax, Rod of 7 Parts, Scepter of Might, again, 15, 16% in this case. Sword of Cass, a little something for Tim Kask there. Teeth of Dalver Nar. Doll, yeah, okay. Throne of the Gods, and the Wand of Orcus. Notice there's no value put here on the Throne of the God. Notice with the teeth, it's per tooth. Notice the Orb of Dragonkind has a range in value, 10 to 80. That's going to depend on which dragons and whatnot. But we'll get into the details of some of these things. You know, we're 20 minutes in, but I'm going to say, let's pop that off for a second, and then I can look through this a little more easily. We'll get into some of the descriptions of these things, these individual artifacts. There's some interesting things going on. Of course, that comes at the end of the descriptions of all of the miscellaneous magic items. There's a bit to read on the special table. Let's see here. All right. We'll cue that up here and pop on over and take a look. Further along, 156, I believe, is the page number, describing the table, which is special, which is Artifacts and Relics. I shouldn't just say artifacts. Some of them are described as relics. And let's get into it. Notes regarding artifacts and relics. Each artifact or relic is a singular thing of potent powers and possibly strange side effects as well. Regardless of how any of these items come into your campaign, only one of each may exist. As each is placed by you or found by player characters, you must draw a line through its listing on the table to indicate it can no longer be discovered randomly, or perhaps just remember you used it. If it wasn't that memorable, maybe you need to put a line through your DMG. I've got marks in my DMG. I've always been someone who uses my book and is not afraid to mark it up if I feel like it. If the dice indicate an item is no longer available, you may substitute a clue as to its whereabouts or simply ignore the result so that no magic item is found at all, no artifact or relic. I like to make that distinction. Because of the unique nature of each artifact and relic, their powers are only partially described. You, the Dungeon Master, must at least decide what the major powers of each item are to be. This prevents players from gaining any knowledge of these items, even if they happen to own or read a copy of this volume, and it also makes each artifact and relic distinct from campaign to campaign. These artifacts and relics which you bring into play should be so carefully guarded by location and warding devices and monsters that recovery of any one is an undertaking of such magnitude that only very powerful characters in concert and after lengthy attempts have any chance whatsoever of attaining one. Naturally, each artifact and relic might have a body of rumors, tales, and other lore. Discovery of such information should not be by chance. Minor clues may be placed, but any extensive oral or written information must be sought out and obtained only after considerable expenditure of time and money, if at all. Please note that you need not use any or all of the artifacts and or relics here. If you prefer, you may rename those in your campaign to suit a particular mythos, or you may devise your own entirely. But any creation by you must be done so as to maintain the item in balance with the game as a whole. And this goes for assignment of powers with respect to any of these items, too. A super weapon is certain to blast the whole campaign to smithereens, unless it is given proper limitations, and also a nemesis creature in some cases. At the end of the descriptions of artifacts and relics are 5 tables which list the various powers and side effects of these items. Each item is described, well, only a few of its attributes, and its other characteristics are mentioned with respect to the number of each power or effect from the appropriate table, i.e., each item has several powers and or effects you must select and record in your copy of this book. Players can know virtually nothing about any powers and effects of any artifact or relic. These must be discovered by them through experimentation, by their characters, legends, legend lore, the spell, etc. If a player refuses to risk his or her character when an item is discovered, preferring to allow some hireling or henchman to hazard the trial and error process necessary, the character given the item or ordered to determine its power and effects will certainly do one of the following things. 1. If the character is evil, he or she will destroy, or at least escape from, the player character once the artifact or relic abilities are known to the character. 2. If the character is neutral and neither good or evil otherwise, he or she will use the powers of the artifact or relic to dominate and control his or her former employer slash master or mistress, destroying him or her if threatened. Number 3, if the character is good, he or she will realize that his or her employer, master, or mistress acted in a most evil fashion by giving or forcing upon him or her the artifact or relic, so the character will use every wile to escape the player character and take the item along to give to his or her religious leaders or other suzerain. And of course, this character will never again associate with the player character in question. All hirelings and henchmen of a player character foisted off an artifact or relic in such manner, foisting off an artifact or relic in such manner, will have a drop in loyalty of 10 to 30% if the character having the item is permanently harmed or killed. All artifacts and relics are of such power that they are virtually impervious to harm, magical or physical. Some predate the known gods, and others were formed by the gods. Typically, each can only be destroyed by a single means. A table after those of powers and effects gives a sampling of the various means suggested. Any character attempting to destroy an artifact or relic by disassembling its parts, removing a portion, or similarly defacing it must usually save versus magic at -5. Failure equals death. I guess this harkens to dropping the one ring in Mount Doom, as it's one way of destroying it. Many of these items tend to make their possessor reclusive, secretive, arrogant, and or greedy. These effects are best to handle. These effects are best to handle through manipulation of the player by means of powers, not player characters, etc. Finally, whatever befalls the possessor of an artifact, relic, or the effects he or she causes by use of the prime powers, or even the major powers in some cases, is permanently and usually irreversible by the most powerful of spells, including wishes, for example, or even by deities' exception. A deity who created the item, or one which can fully control it, may, at your option, be able to reverse the effects of some powers. Well, I'll tell you what, we're about a half hour in, and what timing. We're about to get to the Acts of the Dwarvish Lords. I think that's probably best saved for next time, so we can get into it fully without running too long. So we'll call this the end of part 1 of a good show here. And let's see, what do we got? Yes. Dungeon Master Guide, Artifacts. We'll call this part 1. We'll actually call the next one Artifacts and Relics, part 2. And we'll leave it at that. I want to thank everybody for popping into the chat today. Nice group in there, and I appreciate it very much. If you want to watch this show, we stream live on Twitch each Monday at 10 a.m. Central, and then it is archived on YouTube. If you do catch up with us on First Time Chat viewer, there you go, Commander Meerkat, thank you so much. And by all means, subscribe to the channel, to the Twitch channel, and chime in on the stream chat so we know people are here. Prometheus, hey, there you are. Thanks for stopping in today. Thank you, Sarah, as well, Commander Meerkat, and everyone. And if you catch up with it on YouTube, please do subscribe to the channel there. Click the bell so you get updates whenever a new show is archived. And, of course, give us a thumbs up on shows you like and enjoy, and feel free to comment on them. The theme, quality of the show, we're always willing to take notes. Thank you very much. Once again, this is the OK Grognard Show from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Bye-bye.